let's see if I can actually read some of the many arcs that I still have left unread, shall we? Hi everyone, my name's Chloe, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for being here today. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. It's something I've not done on this channel before, and it's going to be a try a chapter style video. So this week I am participating in Arc August. It's something that's been around for a while, but Tori has created a challenge based on this that I will link the information for down below. And I'm not doing it for the entire month because I have way too many other things to read this month. If you've seen my TBR, you know the beast of a book that I've got to try and read next week. Hopefully that's next week's issue. But I did want to try and participate in this for a week. I've got a couple of arcs I'm really excited for. So I've already started reading my most anticipated arc. I am loving it so far. You will hear all about that in next week's vlog and also in my wrap up and things at the end of the month. But I thought for the rest of the week, I have a couple of arcs that I want to get to. I'm not entirely sure which ones to pick up next, so what I'm going to do is do a try a chapter style video. So I have picked a few. I'm not going to go through them right now. I'm going to go through them as I'm actually about to read them. I just thought I would film a quick intro to let you guys know what is happening. I have decided to pick a handful of fantasy or sci-fi or something like that type ones, and then a handful of contemporary ones as well. And my hope is that I will read 2 more during this week, because the one that I'm reading at the minute should finish today, and today's Tuesday, so I have plenty of time to read 2 more books this week. But what I'm going to do now is hand over to me from the future, where I will be talking through these books one at a time, telling you what I think about them, reading the first chapter, seeing how it goes and seeing which one grabs my attention immediately. And then once that's all done, we'll throw it back to me from now to say goodbye to you all instead. Okay, so my plan is to pick 2 books to read during this video. The first one I'm going to try chapters of is a fantasy. So I'm going to pick a fantasy and a contemporary. I've picked 2 books for each of these. And we're going to start with my first chapter to read, which is The Sunbearer Trials by Aidan Thomas. Aidan Thomas is the author of Cemetery Boys and also Lost in the Neverwoods. Really loved Cemetery Boys. I had some issues with the pacing of Lost in the Neverwoods, but that was actually their debut. It was just published after Cemetery Boys. I'm very excited for The Sunbearer Trials, based on Mexican mythology. It's got semidioses, which is demigods, and it is a trial. Basically, they have to compete to be the Sunbearer, and I believe the main character thinks they don't have a chance, and things will go from there. As you can see, I know very little of the synopsis, but I was going to be reading it anyway. I got approved for the arc. I do feel like this is probably the one that I'm going to pick. I know I shouldn't go in with like expectations, but I'm very excited for this one. Although I am excited for the other book as well, which I will get onto in a minute. But for now, I'm going to start by reading the first chapter of The Sunbearer Trials. I will say if there's like a prologue and things, I'll probably read the prologue and the first chapter, but let's just get on with the reading, shall we? Okay, so I've read the prologue and the first chapter of The Sunbearer Trials. I'm very much enjoying this so far. The writing style is reminding me more of Cemetery Boys from the off. What I said about hoping the writing style had improved, and that's what I'd see in this. Sort of carrying on with Cemetery Boys rather than going back to Lost in the Neverwoods. Seems to be right, which I'm very happy about. The prologue was basically just setting up the world and what the god system is in this world. Because it is based on Mexican mythology, so it's getting you acquainted with that, which was interesting. A lot of mythology in general, if you're reading about it, they all tend to have like links to each other. Like a lot of the times some of the stories are similar, but with obviously different gods involved and different, and there are slight differences to the story. But when I was reading this, I'm like, oh, okay, this sounds like a god story I've heard before loosely in some way, which is a good thing because it meant that it wasn't too confusing or anything like that. We've then had a chapter with Teo, who is a main character, and he is a semidiosis, so he is the son of the god of birds, I think it was. And basically all the way through they're talking about these Sunbearer Trials, which is each year someone gets picked to be the Sunbearer, and it's to make sure that these old gods who sort of staged a revolution can't come back and cause havoc. And 10 semidioses are chosen to compete to be the Sunbearer, and all the way through he's saying that he's only a jade, so he's not going to be picked. So obviously he's going to be picked. We haven't got to that part yet, but obviously that's what I see happening. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It seems fun. Still thinking that I probably will end up carrying on with this one, but we are going to start a next one. I'm not just going to read it right now because I'm going to go to work now, but I will give you the rundown and then I'll come back to you with thoughts on it later. But the other one I'm going to read is a little bit different. I've gone from a YA fantasy inspired by Mexican mythology to what I believe is an adult fantasy, which is a sort of retelling of Dracula's Brides. I'm going to be reading the first chapter of Dowry of Blood. This obviously did come out last year. It was self-published, but it's now got a traditional publisher, and I got the York and NetGalley through them. So I'm going to be reading the first chapter. I know that this one is apparently beautifully written, so I could get carried away with the beauty of the writing and want to carry this one on as well. But, you know, if I have time, I'll end up reading all of these books this week. I'm actually doing quite well at like the speed that I'm reading things at the minute, so we don't know. But I'm gonna go to work now, and yeah, I will catch up with you guys when I've read the first chapter of A Dowry of Blood, and we'll make a decision of which fantasy I'm going to read first. So it's actually a little bit later now, but I haven't had a chance to film my thoughts on the first chapter of A Dowry of Blood. This actually isn't really the first chapter because I realised that there aren't actually chapters in this book. I was talking to Meg because she's read the indie published version, and she said that basically I've gone further than what she would consider the first chapter, but what I read where there was like an actual break was very, very short, and it felt more like a prologue. So then I read like the next bit, and then that was ridiculously long before there was a break. So I've read like 5% of this book now, but that still did only take me like 10-15 minutes, so it's a very quick read. I'm actually enjoying it. It's very beautifully written. So far we've had, it's about Dracula's Brides, so far we've had the scene where she's turned into a vampire, and I think this is actually going to be the one that I carry on with. I went into this fully thinking that I was going to read the Sunbearer Trials because it's one of the most anticipated releases of the year, and now there's a car alarm going off. Okay, so we're back. So yeah, I went into it thinking that I'd read the Sunbearer Trials, but something about the writing of this one has just hooked me straight away, and like I said, I read like 5% in about 10 minutes, so I think it could be a really quick read. So I'm not ruling out reading the Sunbearer Trials, but I think what I'm going to do is carry on with Dowry of Blood. I am still going to read 2 more books in this video. I'm going to do 2 contemporaries as well. So basically my plan for this week, I'm reading all arcs. I've already read one that I knew I was going to read earlier on in the week. I've now picked the fantasy I'm going to read next, and then the book I'm going to read after this is going to be a contemporary, but it's going to be picked in the same way. So I'm going to go and read Dowry of Blood, and I will come back to you probably tomorrow where I read the first chapter of 2 different contemporaries and see which one of those I'm going to pick up. And then if I do finish those, I'll just end up coming back to the other ones that I'm interested in from this. I might end up reading all 4 this week, we don't know. Hello, it is a couple of days later now. I have finished reading A Dowry of Blood. If you want to know my full thoughts on that, check out my vlog that will go up next week after this, the next video after this. This is going up on a Saturday, that's going up on a Wednesday. Check out my full thoughts on there. But now we need to try 2 more first chapters. I say we need to, I've actually already tried one, but I was not sort of ready to film me reading it, so there is no b-roll footage for this one. But the first one that I picked was Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. So this is Ashley Poston's first adult romance, I believe. I've read her YA romances before, which is the Once Upon a Con series, which is all set around Comic Cons, and I really enjoyed those, I think partly because of the nerdy aspects of them, but I did really enjoy the writing style. It was just really fun and easy to read, so I was intrigued to see what an adult romance would be like from her. Basically it is about a woman who is a ghostwriter for this well-known romance novelist, and she has a disagreement with her new editor, and then one day finds his ghost on her doorstep, and I don't know where the romance goes from that. I'm feeling like it's reminding me a little bit of like Just Like Heaven, the film with Reese Witherspoon and Mark Ruffalo in it. I feel like there's going to have to be a twist somehow, because otherwise how do you have a romance between a living person and a ghost? But anyway, I read the first chapter, I really enjoyed it. In like the first paragraph there was mention of someone writing smutty fan fiction, then later on it was something about someone being bored so she buys books. So I'm like, this is very relatable. And yeah, just the humour and things like that straight away I'm like, I like this main character. This is a person that I would enjoy following for the rest of the story. So far so good. I am going to read another first chapter. This is a try a chapter tag. We are going to try a couple of first chapters. So the next one I'm going to read is going to be Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. I wanted to read sort of two fantasies against each other and two contemporaries against each other. I know Dead Romantics has a fantastical element to it, but for all intents and purposes it is a contemporary romance. Whereas with the other two that I tried before as well, I read like a YA and an adult. With this one I'm like, I just want to read an adult contemporary at the minute, so I'm just going to pick two very much against each other. Something Wilder, I don't actually know the premise of. I just know it's the newest Christina Lauren one. I know it's actually, I'm pretty sure it's actually out by now, but I got the arc for it, so I'm gonna go back to that and read the first chapter of it, and I will catch up with you guys when I've read it and tell you how it's gone. Okay, so I've read the first chapter of Something Wilder. I think it's safe to say I'm gonna carry on with Dead Romantics instead. I didn't dislike it at all. I say I read the first chapter, I read the prologue. The prologue was pretty long, so I've just left it at that. I've had a look at the synopsis now, because the prologue paints a different picture than what the actual synopsis is. Basically, from what I gather, it's a second chance romance, and the prologue sets up when they were happy, and then obviously later on it's going to be when the guy comes back into her life. But it's set on like a ranch in Utah, and it was not the vibe that I'm wanting at the minute. Like, when it was basically the prologue was about her dad leaving and her being left to run the ranch by herself. She's 19 years old. I think chapter 1 is present day. So when was the prologue? Prologue was 10 years ago. It's present day, so she's 29 in present day. And yeah, it's like, obviously she read like a very idealistic 19-year-old who probably has had to deal with some harsh life lessons in between. So I'm guessing a character will be more likeable, but in that prologue I was just like, I'm not gelling with you as much as I gel with the other character straight away. I think I will like it, or at least I'm interested in reading it still, but it was just like the vibes of it weren't what I'm wanting right now. I think part of Dead Romantics still is because I've just read Yellowface earlier on this week, which is all set around publishing. Reading something else set in publishing, I was like, oh, I might be in the mood for this now, so I think that's part of it as well. But no, both good first chapters, but Dead Romantics has hooked me more, so I'm gonna be carrying on with that one. And with that is the end of our try a chapter. So interesting really, because I read two chapters for my first choice and picked the one that I really thought I wouldn't want to read going into it, and then the second two I read one by an author that I've read quite a few of their adult romances, so thought that's an easy one to put on there, so that there's definitely one I'm gonna like out of the two. And then the other one where I was like, I'm not sure how well it will translate to adult romance, but it seems to be working really well. So probably actually a good choice of books for this, because it's sort of the ones that weren't necessarily the obvious choice that I picked, and I wouldn't have known that if I'd have not tried the first chapter. The other problem with me doing this though is that I am a completionist, so now that fact that I've read the first chapter of all four of them, I want to finish the other two, but I have no time to finish them this month. I've created a problem for myself. I know it's not like a real problem, but it's my brain is not gonna let me forget it. Right, I'm gonna pass you back to pre-recorded Chloe, who's already done an outro for this video, and she will wrap up the rest of this. Okay, so I'm filming this in the past. I've not actually read any of these books yet, so I have no idea which one I picked, but you guys should have seen that in my last couple of clips. So I hopefully found some books that I was very interested in reading. Hopefully I was able to narrow it down, because I'm very, very indecisive. But if you want to see how I actually liked whichever arcs it is I picked, like I said, watch next week's vlog or my wrap up at the end of the month. But yeah, I'm glad that I'm able to get through some of these, because my NetGalley ratio is getting ridiculous. So that's pretty much everything. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff down below, and I'll see you guys next time with a new video. Bye.